Okay, so I had to go check. I'm sorry. When you're home by yourself and you see something on the other side, that's a problem when you have a big house and you're totally alone at home. Anyway, I was talking about authenticity. The reason why authenticity has become the big currency and what people are striving to have, or they're trying to gain a better understanding so that they can actually be authentic. It's because in order to be authentic, you have to be real. What does that mean? Everyone's like, yeah, be real. 100%. To be real means you have to admit to your mistakes. You have to own your mistakes. You have to go back sometimes to a person and say, listen, I'm sorry that I hung up on you. Um, I just didn't want to allow myself to speak and say some things that would hurt your feelings or insult you, and I would be wrong. And I'm sorry that I did that, and I hope you could understand. I didn't feel like our conversation warranted me getting angry at you, so I just wanted to stop myself from that. It's not that I wanted to not listen to you or validate you. Just tell me again how is it that what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you were thinking so that we can pick up the conversation from there. Anytime that you approach relationships that way, as much as it seems like, well, no one will listen to that, like that's totally lost. No, it's not. It's not totally lost if you go back and you try to reconcile, you try to make something better because you care about the person. It's never lost if you're giving value to other people. Now, if you're not giving value to other people and you're honestly hanging up, leaving conversations, doing whatever in a way that's like you don't care about their feelings, it's going to come through. And it comes through why? Because it comes through your energy. So, anger, one of the causes of anger is definitely fear. The person is afraid of not being able to handle something. They're afraid that they can't deal with something. They're afraid that they can't cope with something. It's something new in their life and they're afraid of it because they've never experienced it before in their life. Parenting can be that. Puberty can do that to you as a kid when you're going through puberty stuff. Obviously, chemical changes are happening to you and they're scary because you don't even feel like you fit in your body anymore. Your body is changing, you know? And those changes make you feel uncertain and insecure, like more insecure than ever. You start to notice things about yourself going through puberty that you didn't even notice before. You start to look at your friends in ways that you didn't even look at them that way before. But now you are. Um, that doesn't stop. You know, puberty is not the last season of life where you have something scary. Then you go into um, furthering your studies, getting a degree, or starting your own business, or venturing off into I don't know some project or idea that's like your dream. It's still something new. Anytime it's something new in your life, it is going to trigger some fear because you've never experienced it before and you don't know what's on the other side. But just because it triggers fear doesn't mean that you cannot handle it. Does not mean that you cannot make it happen. You know, sometimes fear is an indication that you have the courage it takes to go through it. But in the world, we've defined fear so negatively that what do? We respond with anger because we sometimes want to avoid it. We want it to like leave our life. We don't want things that make us afraid. So that's why we respond with anger because we also feel like we won't be able to run away from it if we have to run away from it. Because sometimes you can't physically run away from it. That's another reason why fear makes you angry. You can't run away from it, right? So fear is one of the reasons for anger if you're a parent. So if you have a parent that is constantly very angry at you and you're thinking it's always something wrong, that you did something wrong, I'm here to tell you probably 98% of the time you did not do something wrong. That parent is just angry because of fear of not being able to cope with life. That's the truth. And a lot of adults won't admit that or they won't even share that with their kid. So that's another reason why emotional intelligence is so important because either you learn about it to apply it yourself, make your life better, or you learn about it so that you can understand others and have more compassion and empathy and identify moments when you're wrong and moments when no, it's not me, it's the other person that is wrong. You know, one of the biggest advantages of psychology is not necessarily always, giving therapy to everybody else. Identifying and analyzing everybody else is also being able to recognize when am I wrong and when am I not wrong. So it also gives you a sense of confidence of knowing that you're able to self-reflect and determine, was your anger response warranted? Okay. Um, pain. Pain is another reason or cause for an anger response from an individual. Why? Because if a person is undergoing emotional or physical struggles, they may respond in anger because those emotional or physical struggles are affecting their everyday life. Have you ever wondered why elderly people sometimes are like the angriest? Or like they just seem to be like the most miserable? Or like the crankiest, right? And sometimes it has nothing to do with age. Like I know I said the older person, like grandma or grandpa, sometimes it has nothing to do with age. Sometimes the person is the crankiest because they're going through a lot of emotional negative crap or shit, if you want me to say that. It's a bad word. I hope YouTube doesn't cancel the video. But yet it's true. I was going through a period of time in my life where I had to have the emotional backbone of steel, basically, to not like crumple up and just give up. And I can definitely tell you that it was very hard to keep my compassion and empathy on point or even present with the people that I love that were close to me and with myself, because that emotional backbone of steel that was required resulted in emotional burnout. And emotional burnout means that you become numb to the world emotionally. And anyone that is trying to get you involved, engaged, to care, to whatever, like almost like they're forcing it on you, just makes you angry. And you just respond in anger. You will respond in anger because you want to avoid that situation. You want to avoid that moment. You respond in anger to actually create an argument because you don't want to leave your room, your house, whatever. That's another thing that people use anger for. They use it as a way to not have to be involved with their loved ones, with their friends, you know? Um, pain, physical pain. Coming from a person who works out 4 times a week, and sometimes I do CrossFit. On of those 4 times, one of them a week might be a CrossFit circuit exercise routine, right? I have physical pain the next day. If I'm not in my right state of mind because the pain is just a little unbearable, I might be like extra cranky. That's just automatic. And now that I know this about myself, what do? I don't immediately respond with my mouth. I stay more quiet instead of responding because I don't want to allow words to be the dominoes that result in my anger being flared up and just coming out. This does not, you're not suppressing anger when you're doing this. I'm not telling you to do anger suppression. You can't suppress things like this because at one point you will explode. This is not about suppression. This is about learning how to manage it. I'm telling you how to manage anger. Do not allow words to escape, to leave your mouth in moments where and you could tell your anger is triggered. How? Because you start to, from the inside, you start to shake. You start to feel like, you know, you may make something explode, right? We all know how our insides feel when we're getting angry, when anger is there. Don't allow words to come out. There's a Spanish saying, and I've learned this with my spiritual group, calladita te ves más bonita, which means when you're quiet, you look prettier. And I know, like, most people will say that about most people. Sometimes men might say that about women, married men particularly. uh, pero yes, calladita te ves más bonita. I do believe in that, and I can definitely tell you that practicing silence, monks in Thailand have confirmed this. One of the most important features that you develop with meditation is the ability to stay quiet, is the ability to appreciate silence, and with silence comes power. You irradiate power, you irradiate status when you're silent, when you allow for other people to talk more than you. It does not mean that they're winning over you. It does not mean that they are above you. It simply means that you actually are showing, you're exhibiting the character feature of having more power than they have, because you don't need so many words. You don't need so many words to confirm, to affirm your presence. As a matter of fact, anyone that needs so much affirmation, it's because they actually don't have power with themselves. They're not powerful with themselves. They need to affirm it to everyone else. So they're going to have to yell, they're going to have to scream, they're going to have to verbalize. Stay quiet in the moments that you feel anger's flaring up within you. Exit the situation. Take a deep breath. Calm yourself down. Don't allow anger to exist because you don't want it to be your default. This is not about suppressing anger. It's about managing it. You can't suppress or make something disappear that naturally exists in us as organisms of the animal kingdom. You have to learn how to manage it. When you learn how to manage it, then you're powerful. It's like a superhero that gets a power. It's like a person that gets a power. There's this new movie coming out, this superhero kid. I don't even know what the name of it is. I know that there's some technology bug that like infiltrates his body, and now he has to learn how to control these features related to this superhero mutant character, and learning how to manage them, because they're not going to disappear, allows them to embody the superhero um, character finally, right? So you don't make these things disappear. Stress can't disappear. Anger can't disappear. To be authentic, you have to know how to manage them. How do you learn how to manage them? Admitting your mistakes, admitting and being okay with them, learning how to go back to the people that you did wrong, validating them, validate others. Lose your feeling of needing to always be validated first, of needing to be the victim all the time, of needing to be the one that gets help and gets assistance and shouldn't be treated this way and it shouldn't be like that. Life was not meant for you to not have scenarios go wrong. Life was meant for you to have scenarios go wrong. What life is supposed to show you and teach you is how to manage the behaviors, the reactions that you're supposed to use to be powerful. Learn how to manage them. Why is that important? Because there will come a time where you do need to let your anger out the right place, the right moment, towards the right set of people that definitely need to hear, do you know who you're talking to? But that shouldn't be on a regular, because if it's on a regular, then you are basically breaking connections and devaluing relationships almost on a regular. It becomes your regular way of being. And then you are, yes, an angry person. And that's not healthy for you. Anger has been linked, and this is in my favorite book from Dr. Newberg. Yeah, How God Changes Your Brain. But this book is more than just about the relationship, the spiritual relationship with God. This book is really about the physics and the biochemistry of the brain and how it's altered through worship, meditation, and prayer, right? So there's a section here that I read that it enlightened me so much. And it's on page 19 of How God Changes Your Brain. It says, of all the emotions we are born with, anger is the most primal and difficult one to control. Like I was telling you, right? No matter how discreet, anger generates anxiety, defensiveness, and aggression in the other person. The famous fight or flight reaction that every living organism contains. And if you respond to someone else's anger with irritability, which is the way most brains are designed to react, the problem gets even worse. Anger interrupts the functioning of your frontal lobe. Not only do you lose the ability to be rational, you lose the awareness that you're acting in an irrational way. When your frontal lobe shuts down, it's impossible to listen to the other person, let alone feel empathy or compassion. Instead, you are likely to feel self-justified and self-righteous, and when that happens, the communication process falls apart. Anger also releases a cascade of neurochemicals that actually destroy those parts of the brain that control emotional reactivity. Anger, I'll say it again, anger also releases a cascade of neurochemicals that destroy the parts of the brain responsible for emotional reactions. Guys, this is valuable information. Learning how to manage your anger will also teach you and help you so much, you know, handle your emotional responses, your emotional reactions. Okay? But we're living in a world right now that is constantly trying to keep you emotional so that instead of using your logic and reason, you're using your emotions, but you're also not able to control the reaction of your emotions. So you're making the wrong decisions, wrong choices, you're acting on impulse, and all of these impulse decisions are all things that you're going to regret because anything done on impulse is regrettable 100% of the time. There isn't anything that you've ever done on impulse that you're going to look back and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm glad I did that." It's very seldom. And I'm talking about life decisions. I'm not talking about, skydiving. But even that, even like deciding to go on a trip or to go bungee jumping or doing anything that's like extreme sport, you're still in your right state of mind before you take the leap to actually do it. You know, impulse decisions are never great, or else there wouldn't be such thing as one night stands. But whatever. Um, it takes a lot of perseverance and training to respond to anger with kindness, but this is exactly what spiritual teachers have been trying to teach us for centuries. When you intensely and consistently focus on your spiritual values and goals, you increase the blood flow to your frontal lobes and anterior cingulate. The anterior cingulate is the part of the brain, it's a set of neurons that actually help to balance your frontal lobe and your limbic system. So I mentioned this before in one of my other videos. The anterior cingulate is also known neurologically to be, what people refer to as your heart. Let your heart decide, not your mind. You know, um, listen to your heart. It's the anterior cingulate part of your brain because your thoughts, anything thought related or feeling related, is housed in the brain. The brain is the organ that processes all of that. Um, Now, does your heart organ here, does your heart, which is center left of your chest is where your heart's located. So if you locate the center of your chest, women or men, and just move it a little bit to the left, that's where your heart's at. Can your heart be affected by your emotions from the brain? Yes, of course. But emotions don't come from the heart. Okay? There's nothing in your heart that affects emotions, or that holds emotions. It's your brain. But the emotions that come from your brain can affect even the muscle tissue of your heart. There's a broken heart syndrome that results a lot of times in people that go through devastating disappointments, and sometimes even the loss of a partner. Sometimes this is why the elderly, when like one person dies, a few months later the husband or wife dies, like when they're like an elderly couple, because they're so disappointed from the loss that the set of emotions that they're battling mentally actually affects the heart, the muscle tissue, and there's muscle tears in the fibers of the heart. And as you're older, the beating of the heart is heavily reliant on muscle fibers being strong. And if they're not strong, that heart can stop beating if that person goes through those muscle fiber tears. And that's known as the broken heart syndrome. And it can happen. Mostly tends to happen with elderly people, but it can happen. And why is this? Because your brain pretty much processes and regulates everything in your body. So it has a direct effect to your body physically, no matter how we look at it. Pain is mental, and based on how you manage that mentally, it will affect you physically even more or less. But let me continue reading here. When you intensely and consistently focus on your spiritual values, this causes activity in the emotional centers of the brain. Oh, wait. Yes, when you intensely and consistently, I'm sorry, I get lost also. But this is a channel about being authentic, so I'm not going to edit this. When you intensely and consistently focus on your spiritual values and goals, you increase the blood flow to your frontal lobes and anterior cingulate, also known as, your heart center of the brain, which causes the activity in emotional centers of the brain to decrease. We want the activity of emotional centers to decrease. You know why? You want the emotional center to decrease because you want your reasoning and logic to increase, so you make a decision based on reasoning and logic. And of course, it's still going to be based off of how you feel, but your feelings are not at the front of making that decision. So you're likely to make a more solid, good decision, good choice. Um, Conscious intention is the key. And the more you focus on your inner values, the more you can take charge of your life. Thus, meditation, be it religious or secular, enables you to more easily accomplish your goals, which is why we've devoted 3 chapters to talking about this. So Dr. Newberg devoted 3 chapters in his book to talk about meditation, um, of the religious nature, which is praise and prayer, and meditation, related to yoga and and other types of meditative practices that exist. This is great, okay? And again, why is this important? How can we apply this when it comes to anger? First of all, knowing that anger is something that is hard to manage in the brain, and that that's an actual fact, makes you a little less guilty. Like, it weighs a lot less on you when you find yourself struggling with it. I used to feel horrible that I couldn't control my anger. I used to feel horrible that I just couldn't let the other person finish their sentence in a conversation that was a disagreement with me. I used to really feel bad about that afterwards. It also used to make me feel like an ignorant idiot with myself. And I have to admit, a lot of the times that those situations were happening where I was angry at the other person, it was because I had a hard time accepting the fact that I was wrong. A lot of times you have an anger response because you can't accept that you're wrong. We have to allow in our life room for flexibility to exist. Flexibility of what? Flexibility of being wrong, flexibility of making a mistake, flexibility of possibly being the one that I did hurt the other person. It wasn't the other person that hurt me, I was the one that hurt the other person. Flexibility in accepting what the moment should be like, that it doesn't go our way. It's not meant to always go your way, and that's okay. You know, the perfect way of it going wasn't even the way that you were thinking. Maybe the way that it came out was better. You know, because in our life, a lot of times we think we want what we want, like the desires and the wants and everything that we have mentally for us there. Um, but the majority of that, 90% of that, if you had it, you wouldn't be happy with it. You have to allow flexibility for life to surprise you. You have to allow for flexibility in that. And when you allow for that flexibility to exist, um, coping with anger and managing it becomes a little bit easier for you. You're a little less harder on yourself, so you apply that energy in managing your anger responses. And that's good. It takes time, but that's good. So anger is a result of physical pain and a result of sometimes emotional pain. Another thing that causes anger can be frustration. And right now in our culture, we see that happening a lot in our society. They want to have us frustrated. The media wants to frustrate us with these topics related to voting, related to what's going on with different arenas of life, with salaries, with politics, with cultural backgrounds, with sexual orientations, sexual choices, um, gender choices. Look, none of that really matters. It's all a show that's being used to keep your frustration level at a high, so that they can rely on the fact that you're going to respond in anger. When you respond in anger, you gang up against other people, whether in a group or by yourself, but you gang up against others or something else. And when you are ganging up against each other in anger, the system, the matrix, whatever you want to call it, they will find a way to manipulate you easier, because they're going to basically tug on both sides at different points in time to continue keeping you frustrated, so you continue fighting with each other. So you never realize how to manage that anger response. Also, another reason why they do this, um, in social psychology, there are 3 factors that keep anger at a maximum. The anger response at a maximum. Social psychology um, lists that anger is a learned social behavior, that anger is influenced by media, whether social or news, TV, and that anger can be also influenced by gender and mentality. Um, group mentality that leads to victim mentality, victim mindset. And you may be like, well, how do these things relate to anger? When you are able to implement what I just told you, topics, situations, ideas that trigger frustration or keep people frustrated, that cause their frustration to become something that they group up with each other because they want to maybe, frustration triggers in the human brain and in most animals of the animal kingdom in their brain, it triggers a protective response. And protective response of the brain does trigger one's anger because anger sometimes is what you need in order to fend off predators, in order to fend off what's trying to attack you so that you can protect yourself and those you love. So by keeping people frustrated, it does allow for them to guarantee that you have an anger response. And you might say, well, then the anger response will be against them because you're going to respond angrily to them. You may hurt somebody else. You see, these are all things that are of the mind. They're not so much physical. We're not talking about a physical response. We're talking about a mental response because it's the mind that needs to be controlled. It's not the physical body because you can put people in prison and based on where their mind's at, they're either in prison or they're more free than they've ever been in their life. You know, as a matter of fact, the disciple Paul, one of Jesus's disciples, wrote in the New Testament that he felt the most free when he was in shackles in a prison, because even though his body was in shackles and what he was, behind bars, his spirit was free because he knew the truth. So psychologically, that right there, even though it's New Testament, um, it is evidence of what I just said. A person can be physically imprisoned, but where their mind's at's what's important, because their mind is what's going to make them a slave to you or not. So when it comes to frustration and anger, it's um, it's almost like a sly predator. What's a sly predator? It's there, but you don't even know it's there. It's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, you thought it was a sheep all along, it was a wolf. And that's what, social behaviors are like right now. People are not empathetic or compassionate because why? These devices, by keeping us attached to technology, even with work, everything is an email, respond with an email. I remember before it used to be a face-to-face conversation for almost everything. Now it's respond with an email. This on the computer, that on the computer. Kids are on devices. Everyone's on a device. It has been studied by neurology that the more activity the brain has that is virtual, the less the anterior cingulate, remember the heart center of the brain, is stimulated, which means the person loses their capacity to have compassion or empathy. So the response to anger is super quick and super easy. You see? So it's up to us to learn how to maneuver that, to learn how to manage that. I'm even sometimes to blame for this because a lot of times I will be thinking that something I'm doing on my phone is more important than eye to eye conversation with my friend or with my daughter. I have to force myself to be conscious to put it away, you know, um, and be okay if it's away, not notice it as much, not be attached to your device. You're not attached to your device. You use your device when you want to connect with someone. And you shouldn't be connecting with someone 24/7. It just shouldn't. You need space and time mentally of solitude. Because if you're not a person that sits down and meditates in any kind of physical space, at least give your brain the space and time of solitude where your energy is not being exchanged with anyone or anything, so that you can have moments of peace. Those moments of peace will allow your brain to calibrate between emotions and logic. You want that calibration to be consistently done, just like going to the gym. You consistently do something physical activity wise. And if it isn't that, maybe it's watching your favorite show because it puts you in a good mood. Whatever it is that you do in your life to calibrate, to keep things balanced, You have to mentally do some practices to keep your mind balanced. And that does involve moments of solitude. You know, for everyone, if you're not a person that meditates, at least have pockets of time every day that's a time of solitude for yourself, just for your mind to calibrate between emotions and thoughts, self reflect. You know, how was your behavior today? And of the behaviors you had today, how were you with people? You know, how were you with your friends? You know, is there something you need to change about yourself? Is there something new that you learned? You know, something I love to do when I'm having my time of solitude, or meditative time, or prayer, because I do pray every day. But what I like to do is I do like to ask myself questions related to, you know, how can I better my reaction next time that I'm wrong? You know, if I'm talking to someone or if I'm expressing something to someone, how would I want them to react in moments where I want them to validate me? And what does that mean? I want them to recognize that what I'm saying is important. So how would I want them to react? And I think about that, I envision that, and usually it's obviously a positive reaction. And then that's the behavior that I try to have the next time that I'm in those moments where I need to validate somebody or where I need to respond by just being silent. Sometimes your response of silence is more and is better than responding in any form of anger. You know, you have to be consistent with this. This is not something you're going to get overnight. That's another thing that I'm doing this video for, another reason I'm doing this video for. So you can understand that this is not something you get therapy for a couple of months or weeks or, you know, even a year and it's good, it's done. Like if forever you'll be perfect at this. No, this is consistent. You're consistently managing your anger because as you go through life, life is going to present new scenarios and relationships, connections, and events and moments that are going to trigger anger. And it's up to you to be consistent with how you're managing it and to never allow it to fool you into ruining your relationships. That's another thing. Don't allow emotions to fool you into ruining your relationships with people that are valuable to you. You know, water the garden that you have. Water the relationships you have with what? With love, with compassion, with understanding, with grace, with integrity. People want to be authentic, but people don't want to have the features that authenticity requires. Authenticity requires you not to be, oh, this is the way I've always been. This is who I am. That's not what authenticity is. Authenticity is being able to be integral, have integrity, you know, stick to your word, fulfill promises. But of course, this doesn't mean that you fulfill everything perfectly. You're not a perfect being. But simply by attempting it, by consistently trying to do that, definitely makes you a more authentic person than an individual that just sits there and says, well, I've always been this way. You know, I'm sorry that I did this, but it's just the way that I am. That's so immature. You know, that's a child's response. Well, this is who I am. Um, okay. So why grow then? And how are you developing? If that's how you are, then stay the way you are forever. Like, is that what you want for your life? Do you want to have the mindset of a 10-year-old when you're 40? You want to have the reactions of a 20-year-old when you're 40 and life relies on your logic and reason? I mean, I know that I'm talking to people that are not at that level yet. Okay, I get that. You're not old enough just yet, let's say. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't attempt to be consistent with some positive management of your reactions right now. The earlier you start applying this, the easier it is as you get older. But what we're having today in this new generation of people who are 30 and younger is they're having more and more difficulty in managing their emotions. They're seeing emotional things in casual ways, hence why intimacy is also casual for them. Intimacy, having sex with other people, with multiple partners, or having relationships where they are intimate with several people at different points in time, but all within parallel moments, like they're within the same week. And to them, it's nothing. It's totally normal. It's not. You know, you're devaluing yourself. You are frustrating yourself because something that's meant to be valued at a certain level with certain person that should be at that level for you, you're sharing it with too many people Why will you be frustrated if you're doing it by choice, right? That's your question. You're going to be frustrated because subconsciously you want to connect and have that value just with one person, but it's not happening. Why? Because you're making it something casual. Frustration is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So it can, even at the subconscious level, find its way into you and trick you into an anger response. Then you're going to be angry with someone telling you that, you know what, I wish you hadn't done that because I thought that we were being serious. Let's talk about from an intimate level. I thought you were being serious. I thought you wanted something serious with me. I didn't know that it was just casual sex, for instance. And the person's going to be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, it's casual. Like, I don't, it's just sex. It's just that. Um, the person's going to be frustrated with you because you're frustrated. You might be physically comfortable to just be casual with how you are intimately, but guess what? You're not comfortable with your emotions because you can't give yourself emotionally to someone. So that's why you're casual with your intimacy. It's tricky. So you are frustrated just about something else that you're not admitting to yourself. I promise you, if you sit there and you think about it and you're casual with who you have intimacy with, it's probably because you are frustrated with your inability to connect emotionally with anyone. And the reason why you can't connect emotionally with anyone might be related to a trauma of someone who broke your heart. And that someone that broke your heart doesn't have to be a person romantically involved with you in the past. It could have been a mom, a dad, a relative, somebody that was supposed to be there for you that wasn't. That could have been traumatic enough that now you don't know how to connect with someone emotionally. So you try to connect with as many people as you can intimately because it makes you feel like you're filling that void. But you're never going to fill that void. You need to cope and deal with the emotional frustration you have. How do you do that? Well, that's why anger management, managing your anger is important because you're going to learn how to take that frustration and transform it into compassionate, loving response. Maybe you need to go back to whatever person caused that frustration in you, that emotional frustration, and have a conversation with them. You need to forgive them. Forgiveness is key to creating light in your heart and light in your spirit. You're not going to be able to manage anger if you're still holding grudges against people that hurt you in your past. And you're not going to be able to handle your emotional frustrations that keep you intimately casual with everybody and anybody if you don't forgive. And if you can't go back and talk to those people or that person, you can still forgive them. Forgive them in your meditation, a little bit every day. You can't forgive in one sitting, but a little bit every day. By the end of the year, you may have forgiven the person entirely. And you may say, well, why would I want to do that? It's so much time. Are you not valuable? Are you not worth all that time? Are you not asking the universe to bring you someone that wants to spend all that time with you because you think you're worthy of a person that does that? Well, then are you not worthy? Are you not that person for yourself worthy of giving yourself a little bit every day to practice thoughts of forgiveness towards whoever hurt you? So by the end of the year, you have totally forgiven them? Are you not worthy of that? Of course you are. Of course you are. And be proud of that. It took me, it took me, there's a person in my life that is very valuable to me still today, but was extremely even more valuable at the time, 15 years ago. It took me almost 13 years to forgive them. 13 years. Why? Because it was only at the end of those 13 years, the end being like the last year and a half of those 2 years, maybe it was the last 2 years, that I started applying acts of forgiveness in my meditation, in my prayer, and even in my conversations and communications with them until I think it, it's done because there was a shift of energy in that connection now to a more positive standing. Another person that was my best friend, we were super close for a very long time. Um, it took me, what, a couple of months to forgive them, and this was after the experience I had with the individual 15 years ago. Um, with family, with my dad, with my mom, with my daughter, it takes me sometimes a few minutes to a few hours, and I've forgiven them. As a matter of fact, I even forget the reason why I was actually angry, or sometimes I don't even realize that there's a problem because I have forgiven them on the spot. You know, was it like that, 7 years ago for me? No. I had to put in the work of consistently applying anger managing techniques to finally learn how to not allow that to take over my person to the point of damaging my relationships. Now, I'm telling you this not to talk about myself. I'm telling you this because you can't want to have a channel that stands for authenticity and never use yourself as an example. Because anyone and anything that seems perfect has a ton of stuff they're hiding behind the scenes that's imperfect, that they don't want anybody to know. But it's those imperfect spots, it's those imperfections that you feel like you have to hide, that you don't want people to see, even, that actually make you endearing to everybody else. It's those imperfections that make you authentic to people listening to you, to people watching you. Those imperfections make you um, not just authentic, but they make you an authority in a way. People don't want perfection anymore, even at the cosmetic level, you know? I mean, even at the cosmetic level. I mean, I'm not talking about makeup wise. I'm talking about filters. I'm talking about injections. I'm talking about um, physical surgeries they do to change their entire body. You know, surgeries they do even to change like the format of their face, where it's not them. It's visually not them anymore. Um, I'm not talking about things that make you look better in terms of like rejuvenating yourself. I'm talking about you're physically altering your appearance because you don't even like the way that you look. Um, when you're going to to perfection in that way, people don't like that anymore. As a matter of fact, I was listening to a piece of a podcast between two men, and they were actually talking about how they appreciate, natural body and natural looking face. Like, they didn't mean like with no makeup. They meant natural looking face, like not full of fillers where you could clearly tell that those lips don't belong on that face. And you could tell that that nose is not the original nose of that person's face because just the way that their face is designed. Their facial structure doesn't match the nose, for instance. You could tell, they're Italian. I think it was Joe Rogan, he was saying that in one of his episodes. And they were admitting that they've seen so much perfection that all of them look the same. All the women now look the same. And so what do you look for? A woman that you don't, it's not that you want to say it's imperfect, but you're looking for the different. You're looking for the natural. You're looking for the thing that doesn't fit the perfect look anymore. The same goes for authenticity. People want to be authentic. Okay. And I'm not judging people who alter themselves because I feel like if you have to do that to be happy with yourself, then do that. Maybe that's what the key to take you to being authentic. And that's great. You know, you're doing it for yourself. That's great. But please don't be doing that because a lot of times what's happening and what a lot of people, people admit when they go to therapy and as a life coach, I have had clients that have admitted this to me. They alter their body to be attractive to men or a specific man in their life that likes a certain look, and the woman wants to fulfill that look. She went and changed herself, um and then hired me as a life coach basically to help herself accept and love herself all over again. I mean, it was very hard when I'm a person that I don't believe in that for me, but yet I coached someone through that. But I saw it as a way to transform a belief of something I saw. Because something that's great with life coaching and applying social psychology um, um, skills is that it also is almost like I don't just coach the other person, I'm also coaching myself. Because with every client comes not just a lesson for them, it's also a lesson for me. Because I'm learning a completely different universe. And then I'm applying what I know to help that universe be a little bit better, more towards the positive side. But at the same time, I'm also learning something. I'm also learning to appreciate something about myself, or I'm learning something about myself that needs to be changed because I was wrong. I've had a client that one time I was at the point where I admitted I was wrong. I admitted that my perspective was wrong, and I admitted, and I had to do an entire like rebranding of that lesson with them to come to a mindset that made sense based on the problem they were facing. But it took me admitting I was wrong. And the reason why they stuck with me and they referred me then to who became my next client was because I was authentic with them. Authenticity requires you to show your imperfections, you know, and when you show that, it actually makes you perfect in the eyes of the person that's looking at you, in the eyes of the person that's taking you in, you know. I know that the world tries to make it seem like perfection means no mistakes. It's not so. You were designed divinely in a way that was meant to be the way that it is. You were put on this earth with the body you were meant to have, with the soul you were meant to have, with the beautiful light that you have. Don't allow the world to destroy that by making you believe opposites all the time to the point that you don't feel comfortable in your own skin. And the only time you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, if you notice this, and I noticed this for myself too. In my house, I love the way everything looks on me. When I put on clothes, when I try on an outfit, when I see myself on camera, right? Except my hair. I don't like the way my bangs keep doing this partition thing. I don't even know if I want to keep this hairstyle. I mean, I thought it would look cute. I don't know. If anybody wants to comment, please comment on my hairstyle. Tell me if you think I should keep it or if I should change it. Anyway. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, in my house, I feel like everything looks cute. My makeup looks perfect. The moment I'm around people, all of a sudden I start to feel like, oh my God, I think I did too much, or oh my God, I don't think I look cute, or oh my God, I feel like I'm bloated, I'm 100 pounds heavier. You know, um, it's the same when we come to this earth, and we start to grow and develop. We come from a cocoon of love and acceptance and of just feeling like, you know, the way we are is amazing. All of a sudden you go into the world and the world starts to tell you you don't look right. You don't have the right weight, you don't have the right size, you don't have the right amount of muscle, your hair is too much of this, your hair is too much of that, your hair should be curly, should be straight, should be short, should be long, should be cut this way. Your skin should be that, should be this, should be that color, should be bronzed, shouldn't be bronzed. Your eyes, your lashes, your nose, your lips, your hips, your waist, if you're a woman, your breasts, your your booty cheeks, your feet, your nails. Uh, and all of a sudden you start to feel like, oh my God, I have to fix so many things. I'm not perfect at all. You start to feel so imperfect, right? That you start to not like yourself. And you start to go to extremes. It becomes like a dysmorphia. You start to not like the skin that you're in. And sometimes the world can fool you to the point of feeling like you have to alter the skin that you're in. And then that becomes addictive, and so on and so on. Do you see how it is? It's not that you're not perfect in your design already. It's just that the world fools you. The same way as when you're in your house and you put on whatever you put on and you feel great or whatever, and then the moment you step into that party, you feel like everyone's looking at you and there's something wrong with your dress, there's something wrong with your shoes, there's something wrong with your hair. Oh my God, look at what she's wearing. Oh my God, she looks so much better than I do, or they look much better than I. Oh my God, look at what he's driving. He came into the party with that car. And oh my God, you start to feel like I'm missing this, I'm missing that. This is not right. That's not right. I need to work out more at the gym. I need to eat less of this. I need to do more of that. I need to, oh my God, maybe I should save up and get lip injections. You start to have all of these like ideas of like you're not enough as you are, when the reality is that you are. Whatever it is that you're going to do to change yourself, make sure that you are doing that change because that change makes you happy with yourself. Not that you make that change because you want to attract your partner, you want to look better for this person, or because of what other people think, or because of showing off. Because anytime you do changes based on how others are going to perceive you, you're not going to be feeling happy on the other side of that change once it's there. You're actually going to feel like you just proved yourself that you don't love yourself. You're actually going to feel disappointed with your own self that you went through all of that only to feel like, I can't believe I did this to myself. They weren't worth it, you know? And this comes from a person that's had the experience of making those changes, of doing certain things, of altering my lifestyle, of changing certain things about my appearance or my way of being, because I wanted to make the people I cared about, I loved, happy. On the other side, I always realized, I'm sorry, Carla. I genuinely, I'm sorry I did that to you. You know, don't put yourself in that place. Start recognizing today that you are wonderfully made. You're loved beyond measure. That's why you're here in the Love Tribe channel, listening to me. I don't know what time of the day it is for you, but it is, let me see on my phone. Let me check. Oh my God. Let's just say um it's a few hours after midnight and I'm here. I felt like I needed to record this message about anger. I'm sorry that I made it in 2 videos, but I really thought I saw something in my house. I have a dog, but I kept seeing something moving over there, and maybe maybe it was something, I don't know. But I like to believe that when you are spiritually connected to God, no matter what's happening around you, you're always protected. Um, but what I can tell you is this: don't feel guilty or be hard on yourself for having anger, bouts of anger, angry moments. Um, we can manage it. We can practice certain managing skills. What are those skills? Being more quiet in moments where anger is trying to rise up, exiting the situation, scenario, or conversation and giving it some time. Another skill that you could do and practice consistently: disconnecting yourself from social media, from TV, from the news, disconnecting yourself even from the groups that you're in. You know, I'm not saying isolate yourself from your community and from your family. I'm not saying isolation, but I'm saying disconnect yourself from whatever movement, whatever social behavior, whatever you see everyone else doing. Disconnect yourself from being a person that also does that same behavior, because you need solitude to reflect. And when you reflect, you always come to a mental balance. And when you have mental balance, your logic and emotions know how to work together to come to a point of compassion and empathy. And yes, empathy and compassion does allow you to determine what is wrong and what is right. It doesn't always mean that because you're compassionate and have a lot of empathy that you're always going to be nice. No. I have found that compassion and empathy allow for me not just to apply it towards another when another person is right, but it's also allowed for me to recognize moments when I'm right, but I don't necessarily need to prove that I'm right. I can stay quiet and still allow someone else to tell me what they want or what they're saying is the best option or best answer or best whatever, and be like, okay. Because when you agree with whoever's making you angry, when you agree with them, the argument ceases to exist, and you actually prevent yourself from expressing something that you later will regret. Because the only reactions and responses that come from anger are the ones that you will always regret. Remember that next time, okay? Um, I don't advise anyone to just listen to what I say and apply it wholeheartedly and that's it. That's the end all and be all and a cure. It's not. I do believe in therapy. I think you can get a lot of help from people. It all works for the good, you know, whether you go to a therapist, a psychiatrist, whether you go to church, to a pastor, um, to a worship group, or to a mentorship group, or a youth, oh God, a youth ministry. Yeah, they also have youth ministries now for younger kids. Um, it all works for the good. Anything that inspires you to have a more loving approach doesn't mean forgiving, uh, you know, and accepting that the other no, I'm not saying to just be super nice. A loving approach also means that you're able to identify when you are in the right, but not necessarily be angry about it, you know? Because you know how to validate that maybe the other person needs to have that moment of feeling like they're so correct. Um, Getting additional help is definitely my advice. I didn't reach to the point I am today to talk to you this way, and I didn't get to a level. Oh God, I think I just smudged my mouth on the mic. I'm so sorry. I got to a level of knowing all of this, having this wisdom. That didn't happen overnight. You know, we're talking about an individual, and I'll talk about myself as an individual. Let's say we're not talking about, we're talking about Carla, not me, Carla, right? There's a lot of experiences under Carla's belt. Uh, some experiences that went in her favor, and a lot of them that did not go in her favor, that broke her heart tremendously. And you might say, well, how can a person that's broken know how to give advice? Because with being broken comes the growth in wisdom. Wisdom does not happen because your life goes perfect. Wisdom usually happens because your life had shitty moments. So if you're a person undergoing a lot of shitty moments and you are hating it, just know that you're also getting very rich in wisdom. And that's a very, very good currency to have. Because wisdom is going to be your lifesaver. Not in terms of you're going to win up or up, what is it? Win up or up one? When you're always on over about up one everyone else. I don't know. Basically, wisdom doesn't guarantee, or it's not about being on top of everybody else or being first place or on top of the pyramid. Wisdom enables you to know when to back off, back up, stay silent. Sometimes the person with the last word is the idiot. Sometimes people dig actually their own graves with everything they have to say. The more they talk, the more they're digging. Let them dig. Don't be the one digging with your mouth. Don't allow words to come out that become the dominoes that allow the ocean of anger to just burst out like a tsunami. Some connections deserve your compassion and empathy more than your anger. Allow room for that. Apply that a little bit every time a moment of anger happens. You know, Next time you're in a situation that anger arises, exit the moment. Don't stay in it. Don't indulge in it. Don't try to justify it. Don't try to talk to the other person and convince them. Because again, just Dr. Newberg, a huge neurologist here in the States, or now globally now, with a lot of his work, people seek him for a lot. Anger from somebody else, when someone else is angry at us, coming at us with anger, triggers irritability. You know, so if we're irritated, irritability, right after irritability comes anger response. Something that's getting you irritated, step away from it. Another perspective I want to give with this before I leave, because now this is going to be a very long teaching here. There is a mentality that you can develop, that you can start to have as your default. I don't care about that. I don't care about certain things. It doesn't mean that you don't give value to anything. But there is something to be said with understanding what deserves your value and what doesn't deserve your value. What deserves your attention and what doesn't deserve your attention. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about behaviors, situations, moments, and things. Not people, okay? Situations, moments, behaviors, and things. So what is that? Those are all things that I can point at. I can point at a person, yes, but you can't get rid of people, especially people in the circle of your life. You can't get rid of them. they're physically going to be there unless they just, something happens to them and they die. But that's not, you know, that's probably not going to happen. They're still living. How do I deal with them if they're still in my circle? They're still in areas that I go to. You can learn and put into practice the thought mindset of I don't care about their behavior. I don't care about what they say. And you could be like, well, how do I apply that? Learn to care more about your behavior, your response, what situation you're in. You want to change the situation you're in? Stop looking at the situation other people are in. Apply that energy to change your situation. Apply the energy to change your behavior. Stop noticing and giving so much value, because the more you talk about someone, the more you are mentally focused on thinking about someone and their behavior and their attitude and their whatever. You are basically giving that value. You're overvaluing something in someone else more than you're valuing yourself. So the act of you wanting to make it seem like you don't care about something, sometimes you're actually caring. If you really don't want to care, it's not even a topic in your mouth. You don't even talk about it. It's not something that even you even care about, you know? Let me see if I can come up with an example. Ah, yes. I can come up with an example that I even, let's say a dating example, because in relationships this happens a lot. A lot of times people will take something to heart like so much, like let's say, um like when it comes to communication and you respond, let's say, with a thumbs up, right? Because maybe you're stuck in traffic, you're driving, you can't really be texting, or you're in a meeting, or let's just say you, for whatever reason, you're just busy at that moment, but you want to give them some kind of response to be considerate. But to that person receiving the thumbs up, they think like, oh my God, she's being so cold. Why are you being cold? You didn't even answer with words with the what's up. That person is so focused on how I responded, when meanwhile I'm like, I didn't even, it wasn't even that. Like, and then when they're thinking that, right? They don't communicate that. They don't tell me. Let's say they don't communicate, because this happened to me. They didn't necessarily tell me that they were worried about it at all. But at some point, they brought it up. Like days later, when we finally met, they brought it up. And I was just like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I just didn't think that that was a big enough issue for me to respond more. I just thought that a thumbs up was enough. So here I am thinking that the issue they brought up in question, or the comment they made, wasn't that big of a deal. I just gave a thumbs up as an acknowledgement, so they know out of consideration that I saw it. To them, they were taking it as an insult that I didn't give a more elaborate response. Do you see? It's like I still believe, even though I validated how they felt by listening and acknowledging, and I apologized. I said, well, I'm sorry. I didn't think that that would be taken that way. It's just I didn't, and I was genuine with what I thought. I'm like, I don't think it was a big deal. I just thought it was just some silly comment you made. And again, if that's really how you are, show that to to people. You want people to develop a connection with the real you. You don't want them to have a connection with the fake you, and then the real you comes out weeks or months later, and then the connection is like, what the heck? The friendship is like, why are you acting so weird? Which is what teenagers experience a lot. See, they'll have this great friendship. They talk to someone every single day. Then all of a sudden, a month or 2 months later, they're they go 2 days without talking with that person, and that friend's insulted because, oh, you haven't responded to me in 2 days. Like, what the heck? I thought we were best friends. And the other person's like, well, no, we are best friends. I didn't want to talk for 2 days. I didn't feel like talking. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Do you see? Like, it's okay. It happens. Like, let's stop overvaluing other people's behavior with us, and let's just look at our behavior with people and how we want to value people, and being genuine with the reason why we didn't do something. Like, sugarcoating is okay between adults with the kids when you want to like make certain things feel special to them, or you don't want to tell them their pet died. But I don't think between people that are of the same age group you should be sugarcoating with each other, because then you're crossing onto lying. And when you're lying about something, you're not being your genuine authentic self with that person. You're going to be creating a persona. And then what happens? You get frustrated. And then when you get frustrated in that connection, you're going to start responding to them in anger. You're going to lose the connection regardless. Do you see how anger could just kind of like creep in? So we need to know how to manage it. By knowing that it exists, knowing the reasons that cause it, we now know how to attack it. So how do you attack anger? Deal with your fear. Deal with your pain. Deal with your frustrations. Find a way to transform them into something that works for the positive with yourself so that anger doesn't stand a chance. Will you still feel irritability and anger rise up? Yes. Will it have control? No. Does this take consistent application in moments that anger rises up? Yes. So you may not be perfect at first when you apply this, or second or third, but you'll notice by applying these procedures that I'm suggesting, stepping away, staying a little bit more silent, being more, listening more. Even if they're wrong, just listen. Sometimes you got to let people say everything they have to say. Because in everything they say, there will be a sentence that gives you the clear message as to why that is for them. And then you'll know how to respond to them and not let anger control your reaction. You know, you want to become a master captain of the ship in your mind. Apply this. Control your anger. Don't let your anger control you. Anyway, I love you so much for watching, for being with Love Tribe here today. Let me get a sip of water. I am really grateful that you guys are here in my channel. Um, this was Love Tribe talking about how to manage anger in a world of confusion. Remember, confusion is an illusion. It's a controlled illusion designed on purpose with the intention of keeping you frustrated, keeping you irritated, keeping you believing that everybody's acting a certain way or following a certain pattern so that you can fit into one of the categories and they can manipulate you. Don't allow anger to control you. Learn how to manage it and control it. I love you. You're amazing. And remember, no matter what happens, no matter what the world puts on your plate, you are the master captain of the ship in your mind. You control your mind, nobody else. Like, share, subscribe. I love you. And don't forget to look in the show more section if you want to contribute to the movement. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that would be nice. You can see some more pictures. But anyway, thanks for being a part of this community and stay tuned. My next episode, I'm going to have a guest. We're going to talk about relationships. Yeah, that's going to be nice. Relationships and dating in 2023. Love you.